this. Is it good now? Let's see that makes what?
You know this is loose.
Let's lose too.
Yeah.
I think the laptop.
Let me with this one. It's better. This is more tight.
وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, and we mentioned Anas ibn Malik several times before, and we said that Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, he was considered to be from amongst the companions who narrated the most hadith. For those of you who were here who remember, we mentioned that there were 7 companions of the Prophet ﷺ who are known as the companions that narrated the most hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Al-Mukthirun, the riwayah. They narrated the most hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Those 7 being Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. Okay, we mentioned 4 of them were from the Muhajirun, and 3 were from the Ansar. The Muhajirun were Abu Hurairah, Abdullah ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Abbas, and Aisha radiallahu anha. And the 3 from the Ansar were Anas ibn Malik, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, and Jabir ibn Abdullah. Right? And in terms of the order of which was narrated the most, then you have Abu Hurairah was the most, number 1, and then it's Abdullah ibn Umar, number 2, and then after Abdullah ibn Umar you have Anas ibn Malik, then Aisha radiallahu anha, then you have Abdullah ibn Abbas, Jabir ibn Abdullah, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. Okay? So we mentioned Anas several times, him being the servant of the Prophet ﷺ. His kunya was Abu Hamza. So here, he's the one that's speaking, radiallahu anhu. And Anas ibn Malik is saying, he's talking to the Tabi'een, right? The Tabi'een are those people who met the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. So he said to them, radiallahu anhu, إِنَّكُمْ لَتَعْمَلُونَ أَعْمَالًا هِيَ أَدَقُّ فِي أَعْيُنِكُمْ مِنَ الشَّعْرِ كنا نعدها على عهد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من الموبقات. He's saying you guys do actions that you see very insignificant, as light as a piece of hair, very little and insignificant. However, those same actions that you see as very small and insignificant and trivial, we used to see it during the time of the Prophet ﷺ as something that is major. In fact, the word he uses is mubiqat. And mubiqat, the meaning of it is that which destroys. And he's saying that we see you, tabi'in, doing actions, and you take those actions very lightly. But in our time with the Prophet ﷺ, we saw them as being very, very dangerous and very, very serious. And Imam al-Nawawi brings the explanation of Imam al-Bukhari. Imam al-Bukhari, he said, al-mubiqat, the meaning is al-muhlikat, that which destroys. So the relationship of this hadith to the chapter speaking about the muraqabah, right? The concept of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala watching over us. And the relationship here is that the person, the believer, should be one where they are very diligent and they take seriously the actions that they do. And they realize and they take into consideration that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees everything that they're doing. And the mindset of the believer should be one that when they're doing an action, they should not look at the weight of the action itself, but rather the greatness of Allah who sees them doing that particular action. Right? There's another hadith that is also collected in Sahih Bukhari, in which the Prophet ﷺ, the hadith is actually mawquf in Bukhari. It says, إِنَّ الْمُؤْمِنْ يَرَى ذَنْبَهُ كَأَنَّهُ صَخْرَةٌ يَخَافُ أَنْ تَقَعَ عَلَيْهِ. He says that the believer, he sees sins as if it's like a huge mountain that is over them, about to fall on them. Meaning the magnitude that they see sins. However, وَالْمُنَافِقْ يَرَى ذَنْبَهُ كَأَنَّهُ ذُبَابٌ مَرَّ عَلَى أَنْفِهِ. However, the hypocrite sees sins as being something like a fly that's flying over his nose that he's just, patting away and shooing away. So the point is, sometimes we might look at sins and we might not take it seriously. Or we might categorize it in our mind and say, oh, it's not a major sin. It's only a minor sin. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is forgiving and the most merciful. We might be very lacking when it comes to committing those acts. Not taking into consideration the greatness of Allah, the one who sees us through those actions. So do not minimize the action, but rather think about the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who sees you. So we see in this statement of Anas ibn Malik, his concern and the concern of the Sahaba with regards to doing acts of obedience and staying far away from something that would be considered to be sinful. Right? And we see subhanAllah that the reality of the human being is the more that their iman is low, right, and that they engage in mistakes and sins, the more it's very easy for them to commit sins and not see it as a big deal. Right? We mentioned before about the Prophet telling us about the heart. Right? Every time a person commits a sin, what happens to the heart? There's a black dot on the heart. Every time a person commits a sin, another black dot, another black dot. Until the Prophet said the entire heart becomes black. And the person reaches a point where they're not even able to make a distinction between ma'ruf and munkar. They can't make a distinction between good and evil anymore. Because they're so used to doing the sin that they get to a point where it's not a big deal. Right? For those of our elders who might have moved here and they immigrated here from a Muslim country, maybe the first time they came here and they saw, women who are undressed, not dressed properly, or see the munkarat and the evil that are happening, it was such a shock. What is going on? Oh my God. You're not used to it. But guess what happens after a while? You normalize it. Right? And yes, it's not that you like the sin or anything of that nature, but human beings after a while, they become desensitized to what's happening around them. So the problem is that we should not become desensitized when it comes to sin. Right? A person that committed sin and a mistake at the beginning of them doing the sin, they feel remorse and they feel regret, and that's a good sign. If the person feels bad about the sin they've committed and they feel remorse and regret, that's an indication that there's still strong iman. But guess what? After a while of seeing it and doing it and being around people who are doing it, it becomes normal. And it becomes to them like that fly that's crossing across the person's nose. It's not a big deal anymore. And that's when we have to now reassess ourselves and go back and say, you know what, I need to rectify my situation. why am I like this? Why am I normalizing the sin? Right? And the more the believer is one who engages in doing good deeds and staying away from evil deeds, the more they become accustomed to doing good deeds, and the more evil deeds becomes hated to them. Right? And that's the nature. The more iman increases in the person's heart, the more they despise and the more they hate and they have a distaste for that which is evil. Right? And you see this. I mean, think about your situation in Ramadan. When Ramadan comes in and now the shayateen are locked up and the person has this innate desire towards doing that which is khair, and after 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, they have made it a routine to do that which is khair, the moment something bad happens around them or they see something on their phone or on TV, immediately the person feels, oh my God, right? They have this feeling of, they don't like it. Because now they're being accustomed to doing that which is khair. Right? And we mentioned before that iman increases the more you do good deeds. And iman decreases the more you do sins and evil deeds. Right? So here Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, he is clarifying to those tabi'een that you guys are trivializing, minimizing, not taking seriously certain actions that we saw as destructive, as serious. Right? So those companions, radiallahu anhum, are the example that we have to follow. We aspire and try to follow their methodology and how they understood their revelation. So we try to be like them in emulating their way. And like I mentioned, the connection between this and the overall chapter is the fact that if a person is concerned about their actions and staying away from sins, that means they are aware that Allah sees them. And that awareness of Allah seeing them drives them to do more good deeds and to stay away from that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala despises. Right. Now, okay, so inshallah we'll move on to the fifth hadith of the chapter, inshallah ta'ala. نعم شيخ.
أحسن الله إليكم. الخامس
But it's not just that, it's a lot more than that. It's a type of anger or being upset by the boundaries being transgressed. Okay? So, and we understand this from another hadith, right? There's another hadith also that's authentic in which, when the Prophet ﷺ mentioned the ahkam with regards to, right, the person who comes home and finds their spouse committing zina with somebody else, or billah. Right? In that incident, one of the companions, Sa'd ibn Ubadah, he said, if that happened to me, I would have dealt with that person who I found in my house. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said to the companions who were sitting there seeing the anger of Sa'd ibn Ubadah, he said, are you amazed at the ghayra of Sa'd? He said, I swear by Allah, I have more ghayra than Sa'd. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has even more ghayra. So what is understood from that is, it's a combination of anger along with the potential of an immediate punishment that comes as a result of that anger. So here the Prophet ﷺ in this hadith mentions what it is that causes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have ghayra. And that is when the boundaries that Allah has set are transgressed. Right? What are the boundaries that Allah has set? Is that when a person does that which is haram. That which is unlawful, that is the boundary set by Allah. Right? We mentioned before the ayah, وَتِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ فَلَا تَعْتَدُوهَا. Allah says in the Quran, these are the boundaries set by Allah. Meaning that we have a wide scope of actions that are permissible for us to do. But then there is a small amount of things that are impermissible. So we, as the servants of Allah, how we live and how we function in this world is whatever Allah tells us to do, we do. And whatever Allah tells us to stay away from, we stay away from. So when we cross the boundary of that which is permissible and we get into doing those acts that Allah has made impermissible, that causes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be angry with the person. And could even result in the person being punished. Okay? So, what we take from this hadith and what is the direct relation between this hadith and the chapter is the person has to be aware that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees them when they're doing whatever action that they're doing. So the mu'min should be one that always works hard in doing that which is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because obedience is what will increase a person's iman and what will enter into a person into Jannah. I didn't make that up, that's in the Quran. Allah knows this. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا صَالِحَاتٍ كَانَتْ لَهُمْ جَنَّاتُ الْفِرْدَوْسِ نُزُلًا خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا. Allah says those who have iman and they do the acts of obedience, they do righteous deeds, their place where they will live is in paradise forever. They will be in there forever. So, our purpose is to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And obeying Allah results in Allah being pleased with us. And disobeying Allah results in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's anger to befall us. May Allah protect us. Right? So we should always be concerned about not doing actions that will result in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being displeased with us. Tabaraka wa ta'ala. نعم شيخ, next hadith.
أحسن الله إليكم. السادس عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أنه سمع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول: إن ثلاثة من بني إسرائيل أبرص وأقرع وأعمى أراد الله أن يبتليهم فبعث إليهم ملكا فأتى الأبرص فقال: أي شيء أحب إليك؟ قال: لون حسن وجلد حسن ويذهب عني الذي قد قدر للناس. فمسحه فذهب عنه قدره وأعطي لونا حسنا. فقال: فأي المال أحب إليك؟ قال: الإبل أو قال البقر، شك الراوي. فأعطي ناقة عشراء فقال: بارك الله لك فيها. فأتى الأقرع فقال: أي شيء أحب إليك؟ قال: شعر حسن ويذهب عني هذا الذي قدر للناس. فمسحه فذهب عنه وأعطي شعرا حسنا. فقال: أي المال أحب إليك؟ قال: البقر. فأعطي بقرة حاملا وقال: بارك الله لك فيها. فأتى الأعمى فقال: أي شيء أحب إليك؟ قال: أن يرد الله إلي بصري فأبصر الناس. فمسحه فرد الله إليه بصره. قال: فأي المال أحب إليك؟ قال: الغنم. فأعطي شاة والدا فأنتج هذان وولد هذا، فكان لهذا واد من الإبل ولهذا واد من البقر ولهذا واد من الغنم. ثم إنه أتى الأبرص في صورته وهيئته فقال: رجل مسكين قد انقطعت بي الحبال في سفري فلا بلغ لي اليوم إلا بالله ثم بك، أسألك بالذي أعطاك لونا حسنا والجلد الحسن والمال بعيرا أتبلغ به في سفري. فقال: الحقوق كثيرة. فقال: كأني أعرفك، ألم تكن أبرص يقدرك الناس فقيرا فأعطاك الله؟ فقال: إنما ورثت هذا المال كابرا عن كابر. فقال: إن كنت كاذبا فصيرك الله إلى ما كنت. وأتى الأقرع في صورته وهيئته فقال له مثل ما قال لهذا ورد عليه مثل ما رد هذا. فقال: إن كنت كاذبا فصيرك الله إلى ما كنت. وأتى الأعمى في صورته وهيئته فقال: رجل مسكين وابن سبيل قطعت بي الحبال في سفري فلا بلغ لي اليوم إلا بالله ثم بك، أسألك بالذي رد عليك بصرك شاة أتبلغ بها في سفري. فقال: قد كنت أعمى فرد الله إلي بصري، فخذ ما شئت ودع ما شئت، فوالله ما أجهدك اليوم بشيء أخذته لله عز وجل. فقال: أمسك مالك فإنما ابتليتم. فقد رضي الله عنك وسخط على صاحبيك. متفق عليه. والناقة العشراء بضم العين وفتح الشين وبالمد هي الحامل، قوله أنتج وفي رواية فنتج معناه تولى إنتاجها. والناتج للناقة كالقابلة للمرأة. وقوله ولد هذا هو بتشديد اللام أي تولى ولادتها، وهو بمعنى أنتج في الناقة، فالمولد والناتج والقابلة بمعنى، لكن هذا للحيوان وذاك لغيره. وقوله قطعت به الحبال هو بالحاء المهملة والباء موحدة أي الأسباب. وقوله لا أجهدك معناه لا أشق عليك في رد شيء تأخذه أو تطلبه من مالي. وفي رواية البخاري لا أحمدك بالحاء المهملة والميم، ومعناه لا أحمدك بترك شيء تحتاج إليه، كما قالوا ليس على طول الحياة ندم أي على فوات طولها.
Now, this long hadith here, the sixth hadith in the chapter of Muraqabah, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu again narrated this hadith. He said that he heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, إِنَّ ثَلَاثَةً مِّن بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ أَبْرَصَ وَأَقْرَعَ وَأَعْمَى. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam here is telling a story. And it's a famous story that most of us have probably heard before. It's authentic in Bukhari and Muslim. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying there were three individuals from Bani Israel. Bani Israel, or it can be translated as the children of Israel. When you hear the word Israel in the Quran, it's referring to Yaqub alayhi salam. Nabiullah Yaqub alayhi salam, his name was also Israel. كل الطعام كان حلا لبني إسرائيل إلا ما حرم إسرائيل على نفسه. It's referring to Yaqub. And his 12 sons, including Yusuf alayhi salam, are the 12 tribes of Bani Israel. So when you hear in the Quran and you read the stories of Bani Israel, okay, it's all referring to the descendants of Yaqub alayhi salam. Okay? So that is that ummah, Bani Israel, and we see that all of the prophets and messengers that came after Ibrahim alayhi salam, right, after Yaqub alayhi salam, with the exception of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who came from the descendants of Ismail, they all the other prophets in the Quran, they refer back to the lineage of Yaqub, the son of Ishaq, the son of Ibrahim. Right? Okay. So, three men from Bani Israel. Prophet is telling the story. So it's a story he's telling to his companions. There were three men from Bani Israel. One of them was Abras. Abras means he had a skin disease. Okay? He had a skin disease. The second one was Aqra'. Aqra' is somebody who has a disease that is known as alopecia in English, when their hair falls off the head. Okay? So it's not just any type of baldness. It's not like losing hair kind of baldness, but it's when the person loses hair, complete hair loss, where it falls off the head. Right? And it's a type of illness actually. It's not like the regular hair loss us men experience. That's not what Aqra' means. Does that make sense? So it's actually an illness. Okay? وَأَعْمَى, and the third person was blind. So you have three people. Okay? A blind man, a man who's suffering from alopecia, and a man who's suffering from leprosy. Okay? Actually, skin disease. Baras is skin disease because leprosy is judam, which is slightly different than baras. Right? So it's a type of skin disease in any case. So, أَرَادَ اللَّهُ أَن يَبْتَلِيَهُمْ. Allah is testing these three individuals. Alright? So there's important lesson. There's many lessons actually from this story, but we'll mention a few that's related to the particular chapter and why Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned it in this particular chapter. So Allah wanted to test these three people. So the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah sent an angel to each, the one angel to go to each one. And this angel came in the form of a man. This angel came in the form of a man. Okay? فَبَعَثَ إِلَيْهِ مَلَكًا. First, the angel went to the person who had the skin disease. فَأَتَى الْأَبْرَص فَقَالَ, and then the angel said to the man with the skin disease, أَيُّ شَيْءٍ أَحَبُّ إِلَيْكَ. What is the thing that is the most beloved to you? What is the thing that you would want the most? So the man with the leprosy said, لَوْنٌ حَسَنٌ وَجِلْدٌ حَسَنٌ وَيَذْهَبُ عَنْهُ الَّذِي قَدْ قَدِرَ لِلنَّاسِ. He said, I would like to have a nice color, a nice skin complexion. Nice color, a nice skin complexion. And for this disease that the people despise me and can't stand me as a result of, to leave me. I don't want to have this illness anymore. Okay? That's the wish he mentioned that he has. I don't want to be in this state. The people can't stand seeing me, looking at me, being around me. طيب? So then the angel asked him, and first off, the angel first wiped over him. He wiped فَمَسَعَهُ فَذَهَبَ عَنْهُ قَدَرُهُ. He wiped over him, and that illness which people despised him as a result of it was gone. He was cured. Then not only did he leave him there, but he also asked him another question. And he told him, what type of money, what type of wealth, I should say, what type of wealth would you want? So the man said, I would love to have camels. Right? And in fact, the narrator had a bit of doubt as to whether the narration was camels or cows, but we see it was camels based on the narration later on. It mentions that the man was given a camel that was pregnant. So not only was he cured from his leprosy and his skin disease, but he was also given a camel that was ready to give birth. Then he went to the second person, who was the person who had the alopecia, the hair loss. And he asked the Aqra, he asked him, what do you want? What is the thing that you want the most? And he said the same thing. He said, I love to have sha'run hasan, nice hair. Okay? وَيَذْهَبُ عَنِّي هَذَا الَّذِي قَدْ قَدَرِ النَّاسِ. And for this thing that the people have despised me as a result of, to leave me. I don't want to look like this anymore. I don't want to look awkward and look out of place. I want to look normal like everybody else. Okay? So, the angel wiped over him and he got his full set of beautiful hair. And then he asked him, what type of wealth would you want? He said, I would love to have cows. So he also gave him a cow that was pregnant, and he told him, may Allah bless it for you. Right? Barakallahu fiyah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless it for you. Then he went to the third person, who was the blind person. And he told the person the same thing. What is the thing that is the most beloved to you? Then the blind man, he said, أَنْ يَرُدَّ اللَّهُ إِلَيَّ بَصَرِي فَأُبْصِرَ النَّاسِ فَأُبْصِرَ بِهِ النَّاسِ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings my eyesight back so that I can see the people. Okay? And subhanAllah, we'll see later on, there's even a beautiful benefit in the response of the blind person in comparison to the other two. We'll see that later on, inshallah. Okay? So the angel wiped over the eyes of the blind person and he was able to see. What type of wealth would you like to have? He said, I would love goats. So he gave him a goat that was pregnant and he said, may Allah bless it for you. Then the Prophet ﷺ, he said, after that, فأنتج هذان وولد هذا فكان لهذا واد من الإبل ولهذا واد من البقر ولهذا واد من الغنم. He said each one of them, what they were given as wealth, the camel gave birth, and the cow gave birth, and the goat gave birth, and they duplicated and procreated until each one of them had a valley full. One had a valley full of camels, the other had a valley full of cows, and the other had a valley full of goats. Meaning now they have a lot of wealth. These guys are rich now. Allah has blessed them. ثم إنه أتى الأبرص في صورته وهيئته. Then the same angel went back to the first person, who was the one who had the skin disease. He went back to him looking exactly like how he looked before. So the angel went to the initial person who had the leprosy, who's now cured and is rich, but now he looks like him. He has the skin disease and he's suffering. And he went to this person. And he came to him and he said to the person, رَجُلٌ مِسْكِينٌ. I'm a poor person. قَدْ انْقَطَعَتْ بِيَ الْحِبَالُ فِي سَفَرِي. I have lost my possessions that I needed for me to travel. My belongings that I need for me to travel, I don't have it no more. I'm poor. وَلَا بَلَاغَ لِيَ الْيَوْمِ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ ثُمَّ بِكَ. So I have no way of continuing my journey except by the help of Allah and then through your help. أسألك بالذي أعطاك اللون الحسن والجلد الحسن والمال بعيرا أتبلغ به في سفري. He said, I ask you by Allah, the one who gave you this beautiful skin complexion and this beautiful color, and by Allah, the one who gave you all of this wealth, just give me one camel so I can travel and it can help me continue going on my way. Then the man responded to the angel by saying, Al-huququ kathira. I have too much responsibilities. I can't give you one camel because the responsibilities are too many. I got bills to pay, I got tuition to worry about, I got mouths to feed. I don't have enough money to give you, I can't help you. I'm sorry. Al-huququ kathira. Then the man said, the angel responded to the same man and he said to him, كَأَنِّي أَعْرِفُكَ. I recognize you as if I know who you are. أَلَمْ تَكُنْ أَبْرَسَ يَقْدُرُكَ النَّاسِ فَقِيرًا فَأَعْطَاكَ اللَّهُ. Weren't you the person who had that skin disease? Weren't you that leper who the people couldn't stand? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cured you and Allah gave you all of this money? Weren't you that person? He responded and he said, I don't know what you're talking about. He said, إِنَّمَا وَرِثْتُ هَذَا الْمَالِ كَابِرًا عَنْ كَابِرٍ. He said, I actually inherited this money. All these camels that you see, this was from my father, who got it from his father, who got it from his father. This is generational wealth. This is not something this is not from Allah. What are you talking about? This is what I inherited from my parents. This is generational wealth. So the angel said to him, إِن كُنْتَ كَاذِبًا فَسَيَّرَكَ اللَّهُ إِلَى مَا كُنْتَ. If you are lying, then may Allah take you back to the condition that you were in at the very beginning. Then the angel went to the second person. Who was the person who was? Huh? Yeah, he had alopecia, barakallahu على صورته وهيئته, looking exactly like him, in the same state. And he asked him the same thing. I'm a miskin, I'm a poor person, I'm traveling, I lost all the money that I need to travel, and I have no way to reach my destination except by the help of Allah and your help. I ask you, by Allah, the one who gave you that beautiful hair, and all this beautiful wealth, and all this, this wealth that you have, just give me one cow that I can continue on my journey. And the man gave him the exact same response. I have too many responsibilities. Al-huququ kathira. He said, I recognize you. Weren't you the person who had that disease? Allah cured you. You had nothing. And Allah gave you all this. He said, إِنَّمَا وَرِثْتُ هَذَا الْمَالِ كَابِرًا عَنْ كَابِرٍ. I inherited this from my father, who got it from his father. This is generational wealth. This is not what you're talking about. Then the angel said to him the same thing. If you are lying, then may Allah take you back to the condition that you were in. Then he came to the third person, who was the blind man. And he asked him in the same condition. He came as a blind person. And he said the same thing. I'm a poor person. I'm a traveler. I lost my belongings and I need to travel. I don't have nothing to travel with. There's no way I can reach my destination except by the help of Allah. And then, through your assistance and your aid, I ask you by Allah, the one who granted you the ability to see and was giving you all this wealth, one goat, so I can travel and I can continue on my journey. Then the blind man responded and he said to the man, he said, قَدْ كُنْتُ أَعْمَى فَرَدَّ اللَّهُ إِلَيَّ بَصَرِي. He said, I used to be blind. And Allah gave me back my sight. فَخُذْ مَا شِئْتَ وَدَعْ مَا شِئْتَ فَوَاللَّهِ لَا أَجْهَدُكَ الْيَوْمَ بِشَيْءٍ أَخَذْتَهُ لِلَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. He said, take whatever you want, leave whatever you want. I swear by Allah, I'm not even going to fight you. Whatever you want to take, for Allah's sake, I'm not going to fight you. If you take one goat, if you take all the goats in the entire valley, I won't fight you, I won't stop you. Take whatever you want. So then the angel said to the man, Amsik malak, keep your wealth. Because this was a test. فَإِنَّمَا ابْتُلِيتُمْ. You were being tested. All three of you were being tested. And Allah is pleased with you and your response. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is angry with your two friends. There are many, many benefits that we can derive from this particular hadith. Let's go back first to the beginning, when each of them gave their responses. Look at the response of the blind man first and foremost. When the blind man was asked, what is it that you want? The only thing he said was, I wish that Allah would give me my eyesight back so I can see. Right? Look, you can even tell by his answer how humble he was in comparison to the other guys. The other guys were I want good complexion, I want nice skin, I can't stand how people are, they would bring all these complaints. And they still got what they wanted. And despite them getting what they wanted, what happened afterwards? They completely rejected and denied it from Allah. Completely. And they said, I don't know what you're talking about. This wealth is from what I inherited. What I have is from me. And the lesson that we take from there is the danger of being ungrateful. The danger of being ungrateful. Those two, why was Allah angry with those two? Because they were ungrateful. Allah granted them that, and they did not return the favor to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the third one, who was in a situation where he was blind, and he was also going through a difficulty like them, when he was blessed, how did he respond? He was grateful to Allah. He understood that this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when time came where somebody came and asked, he immediately said, this is from Allah, take whatever it is that you want. Right? And this is how the believer should be. The believer has to be a person who they are always grateful to Allah. And they return the favors to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the believer understands وَمَا بِكُم مِّن نِعْمَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. Whatever ni'mah, whatever blessing that you have, Allah gave it to us. It's from Allah. It's not from our own ability. Even the ability you have, the intellect that you have, right? You might have a lot of money, you might have a degree, you might have a profession, you might be excellent in your profession, right? You might be successful in your profession, but if it was not for Allah giving you that ability, you won't be able to achieve what you achieved. Right? If it's not for Allah, you will not be able to achieve what you achieve. So every ni'mah, every blessing you have, it is from Allah. So we have to understand that and return that favor to Allah. And when you are ungrateful to Allah and you reject returning the favors of Allah, the favor that you have towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, don't you think Allah does not see you. Don't think for a moment that Allah is not going to realize that. Muraqabah. And this is why the Imam Nawawi mentions in this chapter. Maybe right now you'll think you'll get away with it, you will ignore it, but it's going to catch up to you. It's going to catch up to you in this dunya, and more importantly in the akhirah. May Allah protect us. So the importance of being grateful to Allah and not being ungrateful. And we see what happens to those people who are ungrateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After being given all the blessings, they still reject, and then at the end Allah destroys them. Allah takes it away from them. Right? The story is Surah Al-Kahf. Right? When the man tells the other man who had all these gardens, right? And he told them, say this, refer this favor to Allah. Right? And the man was saying, no, this is from me. Don't you see, I'm the one who achieved all this. This is from my strength and my ability. And at the end, Allah took it away just like that. Right? So the importance of returning the favor to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, constantly being grateful and being thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this hadith, again, there are many other tremendous fawaid and benefits. But however, Imam al-Nawawi, the munasib of him bringing it in this chapter is with regards to the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees you. When you forget or you ignore intentionally returning the favor to Allah, Allah is aware of what you're doing. That dhulm, that's dhulm. That is dhulm. When a favor Allah has given you and you completely reject it and you return it to yourself, that is a great dhulm. And you're going to be held accountable for that injustice that you have done. Right? So that is the context of that hadith being mentioned in this chapter. Na'am, inshallah, we'll move to the next hadith, the seventh hadith of this chapter. Na'am, inshallah.
أحسن الله إليكم. السابع عن أبي يعلى شداد بن أوس رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: الكيس من دان نفسه وعمل لما بعد الموت، والعاجز من أتبع نفسه هواها وتمنى على الله. رواه الترمذي وقال حديث حسن. قال الترمذي وغيره من العلماء معنى دان نفسه حاسبها.
This hadith was narrated by the companion Abu Ya'la, that his kunyat name was Shaddad ibn Aws radiallahu anhu. He said that the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Kayyisu man dana nafsuhu. The smart person, the sharp intellectual person, is the one who holds himself accountable. He holds himself accountable. وَعَمِلَ لِمَا بَعْدَ الْمَوْتِ. And they do actions and they work towards that which will be a benefit to them after they pass away and after they die. That's the smart person. As for the individual who's lazy and who's neglecting his responsibility, he is the one who مَنْ أَتْبَعَ نَفْسَهُ هَوَى. He allows his nafs to follow his desires. He does not control himself. He leaves himself to submit to his desires. وَتَمَنَّى عَلَى اللَّهِ. And then he has these hopes that Allah is going to forgive him, Allah is going to be pardoning to him. Now this hadith itself, as some of the ulama of hadith mentioned, the actual chain of narration in the hadith itself is actually not authentic. The hadith itself is weak, however the meaning is correct. Because we have other narrations that indicate the meaning of this hadith itself. Right? The concept of the person who is intellectual is the one who holds himself to account. Right? The smart person is the one who knows that this dunya, this worldly life, is the place where you can do your actions. What does that mean? What do I mean by that? This dunya, well, as long as you're alive in this world, this is your chance and your opportunity to engage in doing good deeds and stay away from bad deeds. As for the afterlife, there's no time, there's no place for amal in action in the afterlife. Afterlife is a time for recompense. You're being accounted now. Jaza, reward. Alright? So in this dunya, the good deeds that you do, you take advantage of your time, you take advantage of your age, you take advantage of every opportunity you have to do good deeds. It's recorded for you and it's going to be a benefit in the afterlife. But the person who's able to do that is the one who actually holds himself to account. Who actually tells himself, hey, I need to do that which is good, that which Allah wants me to do. I can't follow my desires. I can't just do what I want to do. I have to do what Allah wants me to do. So the person controlling himself drives him to do good deeds. What drove you to come to the masjid? If it was not for the fact that you wanted to do an act that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You could have been anywhere else. But you drove yourself, you held yourself accountable to doing that which is good. Right? Why? Because you are doing action that is going to be of benefit to you after you die. That's the person who is smart. He's the person who's thinking. He understands the mission, the end goal, where he's going. As for the person who's foolish, who's lazy, who has no direction, right? He's the person who he will just do whatever he wants to do. He'll follow his desires, do whatever he thinks is okay to do, and then his mentality will be, Allah is going to forgive me. Allah is Ghafur Rahim. Right? I'm going to live my life. I'm going to party. I'll do whatever I want. And then I'll go to Hajj. Ramadan will come around the corner. I'll make i'tikaf the last 10 days. Laylatul Qadr. That's the mentality some people have. And that's a very dangerous mentality to have. Because you're not guaranteed that you're actually going to benefit from those moments. First of all, you're not guaranteed that you're going to live to those moments. And even if you live to those moments, how much are you sure you're actually going to benefit from it? You might become so far immersed in following your desires and so lost that you won't even be able to find the direction back to the straight path. Nobody thinks about that. SubhanAllah. When you become so immersed, it's mentioned earlier the hadith of the heart becoming black. Right? To the point where the person can't make a distinction between good and right and wrong anymore. And it's not a strange concept. You might have been around people who, when you actually advise them and tell them, hey brother, this is not a good thing to do. Fear Allah. Let's try to be better. They'll look at you like you're crazy. What are you talking about? Everybody's doing it. You are the weird one. Why are you not doing it? Why do you not have a girlfriend? Why are you not smoking? Why are you not coming to a party with us? What? Are you pure? You think you're better than us? That's the logic they have. Even though you are upon the haqq and you're upon the truth, but some people are so far gone that they see you as being backwards and you as doing the wrong. Right? And that's the danger of being so far away and your heart becoming so tainted. But we've mentioned before that a person is able to reverse that and they can come back. They can make tawbah to Allah, they can ask Allah for forgiveness, and they can reverse that process of coming back to the point where now they love doing the good. And they despise and they hate that which is evil. Right? So the meaning of this is correct. Right? Similar to this we have the statement of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, where he said, رضي الله عنه, right, حاسبوا أنفسكم قبل أن تحاسبوا, right? Hold yourself accountable now before the time comes when you will stand in front of Allah and you will be brought to account. Right? We're all going to stand in front of Allah, okay? And we're all going to what? Be shown our book of deeds. This is part of our iman in the afterlife. Everything that we have done in this dunya, good or bad, is going to be presented. So before that time comes when we're going to be held accountable, right? Yawm al-Deen, the day of accounting, hold yourself to account today. Man dana nafsahu, the one who holds himself to account. Right? So Umar used to say that. Hold yourself accountable before the time comes when you're going to be held accountable by Allah. Right? And weigh your reality. Look at, measure yourself before the time comes when your deeds are going to be measured. And then he said, radiallahu anhu, because this dunya is the place of amal, and there's no hisab. فإن اليوم عمل ولا حساب وغد حساب ولا عمل. Today, actions. You can pray, you can give charity, you can fast, right? You obey your parents, you enjoy good, you forbid evil, you read the book of Allah, you do your adhkar, you make dua. These are all good deeds that are being recorded for you. That's why you're alive. The moment you check out of this world and you leave and you're put in the ground and you're buried, that chapter of amal is closed. You can't pray, you can't give sadaqah, nothing. That's it. The only thing that's going to help you are those actions the Prophet ﷺ specified that are from those things that will continue on, that will help the person after they die. Whether it's sadaqah jariyah, or a child that makes dua for you, or beneficial knowledge, those things will continue for you. But now you can't say, oh, I want to make dua, I want to give charity. Can a person do that in the afterlife? They can't. Even though Allah tells us that on Yawm al-Qiyamah, people would ask and would beg and would plead to actually go back to the dunya and try to do something that is khayr, but it will not be accepted. وَلَوْ تَرَى إِذِ الْمُجْرِمُونَ نَاكِسُوا رُؤُوسِهِمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ. Allah says, when you see those criminals, those who in this dunya they were disobeying Allah, when you see them on Yawm al-Qiyamah, they're humbled, they're looking down, they're realizing that they messed up. And they're asking now, رَبَّنَا أَبْصَرْنَا. Oh Allah, we see, we hear, we get it now. We didn't understand the dunya, we were idiots, we were foolish, we didn't listen, we didn't follow the guidance, but now we understand, Ya Allah. فَرَجَعْنَا نَعْمَلْ صَالِحًا. Oh Allah, let me go back so I can do one good deed. I think it will not be accepted. There's no going back. They'll be thrown into the hellfire with Yahweh. May Allah protect us. So now is the time for amal. There's no hisab now. There's no accounting now. But the afterlife is the time where we're going to be held accountable. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. So the hadith itself, although the hadith itself is weak, the narration is weak, however the meaning is correct, and we see this from other places in the Quran and the Sunnah. Right? Allah in the Quran says, ليس بأمانيكم ولا أماني أهل الكتاب من يعمل سوءا يجزى به. Right? You're not going to be rewarded based on what you wish or what you want, but it's based on what you do. If you do evil, you're going to get the reward accordingly. Right? And then Allah says, for those who actually do good deeds, they will be rewarded. ومن يعمل من الصالحات من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فأولئك يدخلون الجنة ولا يظلمون نقيرا. Allah says, whoever does good deeds, right? Whoever does the righteous actions, whether they're male or female, and they have iman, they will be entered into Jannah. They will be entered into Al-Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us Muslim. نعم, the next hadith.
أحسن الله إليكم. الثامن عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من حسن إسلام المرء تركه ما لا يعنيه. حديث حسن رواه الترمذي وغيره. التاسع عن عمر رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا يسأل الرجل فيما ضرب امرأته. رواه أبو داود وغيره.
طيب, the hadith الثامن in the chapter of Muraqabah, the hadith that we're in this chapter, is the hadith of Abu Hurairah, in which the Prophet ﷺ said, من حسن الإسلام المرء تركه ما لا يعنيه. That from the goodness of a person's Islam is that they leave off that which does not concern them. That they leave off those things that does not concern them. Meaning, they mind their own business. They mind their own business. This hadith is a tremendous hadith. Okay? It's a tremendous hadith, and it's from the major hadith with regards to the good manners of a Muslim. The good manners of a Muslim. Right? In fact, the ulama say that specifically the alim who was the Maliki scholar, Ibn Abi Zayd al-Qayrawani rahimahullah ta'ala, okay, he said that there are 4 ahadith, that all of the ahadith that are talking about akhlaq and manners, they go back to these 4 ahadith. And one of them is this hadith here. من حسن إسلام المرء تركه ما لا يعنيه. What does that mean? That means that the more a person focuses on that which concerns them, and they're not concerned with the private matters of others, that is the best for their Islam. It is not from good manners for a person to always be wanting to know other people's affairs. It's not good manners for a Muslim, right? If it doesn't concern you directly, leave it off. Don't get involved in it. That's an indication that a person has good manners. But if a person always wants to know, or they always want to talk about what people did. Did you hear what so-and-so did? This is what I heard. Did you hear what the son of so-and-so was doing at school? Did you? And the person is always busy, they're calling each other. Did you hear? Did you? Right? And they're saying, and you see this now, especially on social media. Right? Right? Where people are just trying to find out people's private affairs. As a Muslim, the person should not be concerned if it isn't concerned. Okay? That's very important to understand this. Also, a very important point to understand about this hadith is this does not apply to when somebody is being corrected or being advised. Because some people might misunderstand or misquote this hadith. If somebody comes to you, or if you come to me and you tell me, Akhi, you know what, I'm just giving you nasiha as your beloved brother, what you're doing is not the correct way of doing things, you should do this, and barakallahu fikum, and you give me nasiha, and I tell you, Ya Akhi Safwan, what are you talking about, man? The Prophet said, من حسن إسلام المرء تركه ما لا يعنيه. It's none of your business that I'm smoking. It's none of your business that, you know, I have a girlfriend. Mind your own business. Nah, because it is from his business to correct me. It's from his business to correct me. In fact, the reason why this ummah is the greatest ummah, as Allah in the Quran mentions, why? تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ. We enjoy good and we forbid evil. So him correcting me is in my own benefit, because he's trying to actually look up for me for that which is better for me in the afterlife. Shaitan might fool me into using that line of reasoning and flip the hadith over backwards in my mind to tell him, mind your own business and kick rocks, man. I can do whatever I want. The Prophet ﷺ said. Right? That's a misuse of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So it is from the business of a Muslim to correct their fellow Muslim. Of course, as we mentioned before, there is a methodology and a way of doing al-amr bil-ma'ruf and nahy al-munkar. You have to use wisdom, you have to be gentle, you have to look at the circumstances. It's not a one-track method. Okay? And that's a whole other discussion altogether. So the relation of this hadith to the chapter is when a person is mindful of what they're doing, right, and they leave off that which does not concern them, then they're aware. They're doing that because they're aware that Allah sees them, right? They know that it is not pleasing to Allah to delve into things that does not concern them. Okay? So what drives them to be concerned with their own affairs is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees them. The last hadith is the hadith of Umar radiallahu anhu, in which the Prophet ﷺ said that لا يسأل الرجل فيما ضرب امرأته. Okay? Which means that a man should not be asked about when he disciplines his wife. Now first off, this hadith is da'if. Okay? Because there's an individual in the actual narration that is unknown. So the hadith itself is weak. It's from the few hadith in this book that are not authentic. Right? So the hadith itself is inauthentic. Okay? And the meaning of the hadith, the meaning of the apparent narration here is that the individual who's married, okay, when he's in a situation where he's in a conflict with his wife or he has disciplined his wife, that he shouldn't be asked. What does that mean? And is that general? How do you understand this concept? Okay, number one, it is not in its general sense. Okay, it is not in its general sense. What does that mean? Because there are situations where the person can be asked if they are abusive. First of all, let me take a step back. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, in Surah An-Nisa, gives us a methodology of what the man, the husband, the steps that he should take in the situation where his wife is completely being disobedient and is completely being and going against what she's supposed to do towards, in terms of not listening, in terms of not being a part of the household, not being supportive, and she's completely doing whatever she wants despite of the husband. Then Allah in the Quran gives us a methodology, a step-by-step process. The first step being, advise her, remind her, talk to her, right? If that does not work, then keep your distance. Okay? If that does not work, the ayah then says what? What does that mean? It does not mean we take boxing gloves, right? Why does it not mean that? Because the Prophet ﷺ gave us the explanation. And he went into detail mentioning that, of course, when that is, if that happens, right? If that happens, then he gave conditions, right? And we know from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that he, himself, never did that himself. Aisha said about the Prophet ﷺ, never did the Prophet ﷺ hit any of his wives, nor any of his, any children or any people that were his servants, alayhi salatu was salam. And when some of the women from the Ansar came, or from the Sahaba came, and they complained to the Prophet ﷺ about some of their husbands beating them, what did the Prophet ﷺ say? أُولَٰئِكَ لَيْسُوا بِخِيَارِكُمْ. They are not the best of you. They are not the best amongst you. Meaning we see clearly that this is something that is not from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. However, there is a contingency that is made in extreme circumstances. If the situation requires something like that, then the Quran mentions a very clear breakdown of the approach. So, the hadith of why Imam al-Nawawi mentioned this hadith in this chapter, as some of the ulama mentioned, they say that it is an example of the previous hadith. The previous hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, what he said was, to leave off that which does not concern you. And from the things that does not concern a person, is you now asking, in a situation where the husband is not the one who is vulnerable, but the husband is actually one who is an obedient servant of Allah and is taking that Quranic approach. If he takes the approach that is mentioned in the Quran, don't ask him why he's doing it. Why? Because the response might be something that is very private, that should not be public. So the ulama mentioned that this hadith is being mentioned in this context as a means of minding your own business. But like I said in the beginning, it's not taken in its general application. Even though it's weak, and we don't apply hadith that are weak, but it's not taken in its general application. Why? Because there are circumstances where questions might need to be asked. For example, if the woman is abusive, right? If the man is beating up a woman, then, and it's brought to the judge, it's brought to the qadi, or it's brought to the wali of the woman, as when there's a dispute, the family gets involved, the wali of the woman gets involved, then the guy has to be asked, what are you doing? Right? So nobody can come and say, well, there's a hadith where it says, don't ask me questions. Nah. You're going to be asked. Because, first and foremost, you're bull, right? Because what you're doing is not permissible. What you're doing is not permissible to a child, nor to an animal, nor to anyone else, let alone your spouse. Right? And we mentioned before some of the previous chapters with regards to the hadith Prophet mentioned about how the seriousness of Allah's anger with those who slap animals in the face, for example. Right? Or whatever it might be. So in any case, this hadith itself is a hadith that is da'if. But the context that is being mentioned in the chapter of Muraqabah is it being linked to the previous hadith. And a person who is conscious and aware that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees them will know that from their responsibility is being good to their spouse. Being good to their wife. Prophet said, خَيْرُكُمْ خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِهِ. The best of you are those who are the best to their spouses. And I am the best to their spouses. Wait, that is the last hadith of the chapter. We're going to stop here, inshallah ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept it. Inshallah, next session we're going to start the new chapter which is called Babu Taqwa. Babu Taqwa. So we'll continue that, inshallah ta'ala. Next session, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from those who listen and benefit from what we hear. هذا والله تعالى أعلى وأعلم. وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.